All right, first thing, I never wear pink. Y'all know what this means. Encourage people, support people. This is serious. We lose a lot of good people just because somebody's not encouraged to go to the doctor and take the checkup, so please. Okay, I'm going to talk to the elephant in the room. You all know my kids. Name one time my kid, any of my kids, I have the least cognitive child in this district. Name one time she has disrupted your classroom. And her older sister, you put her in pre-law school, all of you. You. So, I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and watch my teachers who made my own children's success cry, and there isn't even a box of frickin' Kleenex in the room. That's why I left the room. Can we get a frickin' box of Kleenex? I'm not going to sit up here and tell you what to do or be projected upon myself what to do. I'm not up here to tell the superintendent what to do. If you're a teacher, come and apply to our district. These will be your workmates. I'm not going to sit here and talk about your salaries. We're in the middle of collective bargaining. You all have been union people long enough. I don't sit up here. I take what's coming at me about how poor we are and how poorly we manage the money. We're in collective bargaining. You know that your union president is in collective bargaining. You know what you're asking for. I'm not going to reveal that to the public, but don't sit up here and buffet me. Now let's get into the real ass-eating I'm about to give out. I am a parent. I've just told you. And you all, please, somebody tell me that one of my kids is a POS. Please. But they're not, because I am a parent. Do not sit at home and neglect your parental duties and send your kids to school as derelicts for these people to have to deal with, and then project it upon to me and even the superintendent. Know what parenting is. If you leave dog puppies in a room by themselves for 2 years, they will not know what to do. And that is exactly what's happening. Parents, if you don't like me, don't vote for me. You're stupid if you did. But I'm not going to sit up here and take everybody's ass eaten for this and watch my teachers cry, the ones that made my own kids a success. You have people up here that have kids. All of us have kids. Name one that was a POS. Yeah, I'm the only board member that will say this stuff. Oh, I thought this was board member comments. You know what? I have a photographic memory. I will repeat everything I said in 5 minutes. There's nothing to say about Alexa Lepp. Alexa Lepp is perfect. And what about you? Now I want to talk about you. Yeah, I got the camera on. This will be on YouTube tomorrow. While we're talking about Alexa Lepp, how many grants did you get to school district? Yeah, I didn't have to steal money from some kid in San Bernardino at some charter school that I didn't even know existed to get money into this district. You brought the money in to fund your own program, but everybody's crying at me. Hey, Alexa, I love you. God bless you. I put a pink tie on for you. We can't wait to have you back. There's only one of you. Okay, sorry, guys. When you say board member comments, I'm ready to roll. Candace, sorry to drag you into that. Alexa, sorry, you know me. I mean, my kids still turned out despite of this. So, did I cover POS parenting well enough, or do I need to repeat it? Does everybody out there understand? The teacher is not your child's mother, father, psychiatrist, prison guard. No offense, Hassan. But, you know, Hassan came out of a prison. He worked there. I was raised by a prison guard stepfather. That's what's wrong.
He was not an inmate.
Okay, my microphone. No one wants to hear this. Come on, dude. So anyway, yeah, parent your children. Don't dump them on here and then have me up here getting freaked out by people who don't understand and who are just not socially inappropriate enough like me to call you out for poor parenting. Yeah. Questions? I didn't think so. Let's go on to the rest of my wonderful stuff. Oh, yeah. 4 years ago, I got on this board. People are like, hey, Pfalzgraf, what are you going to do to replace the money we're taking from charter kids? Well, guess what? I hire competent employees. Like that one, he threw $2.3 million of $4 million back on the table. No charter revenue. This guy just got us $1 million. He was writing the grant while people were in here calling to hang him up and telling me I don't run again. Well, guess what? I'm here. I will be here for 4 more years. Because you know why? Because I know how to hire people that are talented, that know how to self-fund this district. Does anybody think about, what's the grant for? One more time. Safety, security. Does that sound like something somebody was talking about tonight? We got $1 million over 3 years. My problem is if we have the $3 million or $1 million, that's 333. I'm doing great on math, people. But in year 4, what do we have?
Another grant.
Oh, look at you. Oh, you've been hanging around Miss Grant money right here. I see that. No, important. You have to build capacity. Remember No Child Left Behind? They would give you money so your scores went up, 2%, 2%. And then at the end, what do? When 100% of your kids aren't fully proficient with the brightest students in the United States, what do? They put you in program improvement and punish you and humiliate you. That come out of Texas. You can't expect much out of Texas. But they punished people for that. So you have to build efficiency. The whole idea was we build efficiency and we make program improvements that will be sustainable with no additional funding. So I'm looking already at year 4. What do we do to replace the $1 million? We don't have an administrator up here who's going to go cry and go, oh, we lost the funding, so we got to do a bunch of layoffs. That's what I'm here for. Yell at me all you want, berate me all you want, covet my hairstyle all you want. I'm up here to run these people and do a good job doing it, okay? If you send me emails, I read them. If you send me an email threatening legal action, I give it to an attorney, duh. But I do hear what you're saying. Pam, here's what's going to happen. I guarantee you. Administrators, listen. We've already talked about this. These theoreticals about the high-speed rail, that they're going to cause mental illness, they do. You're looking at it. But the stuff, I'm not talking about my well going dry and then trying to pump the county. You just ran a big water line by the end of Red Rover, so I'm going to go in there and cry and say, oh, blah, 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 so run free water to my house. A lawyer will do that for us, won't they, Pam? Thank you, and Jackie. But at the end of the day, what I'm concerned about is water interruption at Agua Dulce. It's on a well, right? I'm talking about vibration at the high school. I'm talking about noise, and I'm talking about them daylighting mining tailings up in where all our kids breathe them. It's my understanding that the superintendent's office, with a little look by legal, is going to offer a formal series of concerns into that meeting by way of a public document. Okay, are we good with that? Louder.
Yes.
The community doesn't hear you. We need a hearing test.
Yes.
Good. And that will happen on Tuesday the 18th at the public hearing. It has to. Those concerns exist separately from the myriad of concerns Jackie has. I don't even know what she's talking about half the time, but I know she's right. Okay. This facilitated IEP stuff. You all know Tammy was at Meadowlark for 80 years, right? She finally moved to the high school. An IEP meeting that's a change of placement, a huge placement like that. The room was full of every team member. Mika, great job. The psychologist, the therapist, they were there to help me and get me through it. But everybody on that team was completely engaged and competent, and we were able to have a real discussion about, my child is going through a transition. I can't talk about this with any other kid. If I do, I'm violating a federal and state law. But my child, I'm the education rights holder. We were able to have a discussion about what is going to trigger this child into having behaviors that are disruptive, that will affect the other children or the safety of the staff. And we have honest, open discussions, and everybody is looking at me like, well, you're the school board member, so when you hear me ask tonight about the warrant register and say, is this, watch out, is this service for one child in one room, I hate that. That means we've completely dropped the ball. Or is it for a child that's attending school somewhere else? We can't take care of every kid, but riding them buses, that's not good for a kid if we can be at home here. My child is an example of what Vasquez High School can do. I take it this came from you. Thank you. So I sat through a facilitated IEP. This district's been doing this for quite some time. If you're an IEP parent, fire the lawyer, go to her training, and figure out what to do. Because the scariest part about a process, guess what? The people that are sitting there are educational professionals. They understand special education. You have psychologists there that can't even figure me out, but they do a pretty good job. And they're there to help your kids. So lose the lawyer, understand what your role is as a parent, and stop trying to sue everybody and freak out. I am the most demanding person. I have the highest expectations. Never forget where I work and what I do. But my staff does the best job when it comes to these IEP meetings. Don't forget it. If you don't know how to act, then come and talk to me about it. I'll tell you how to act. Give them the opportunity to help your child. Now I'm going to talk about stuff that makes me really angry. Where's my glasses? Somebody's supposed to be babysitting me up here. Okay, I got this in the mail. Dear Mr. Falls, you got some cursory, nicey thing that you find in a Hallmark card that I should say to my mother-in-law more often. And then it says, I hope if you are not aware, I wanted to let you know that we are currently going through a leadership change at, I won't mention the school, it's a charter school, and that one founder is not with us anymore, and the other one, it will be resigning next week, but I want you to know that everything is fine. Signed, Director of Development for some agency, I don't even know who they are. So we're going to talk about the district charter policy tonight, and I'm going to talk about what that means in terms of things like material revisions and what this district is about and all that kind of thing. So if you want to see me get really rowdy, hang out. I think that's it. Pam, thank you. Jackie, thank you. Mr. Jackie, keep her moving. Let's go to page 3. American National Tour Group. Go to the next page. Antelope Valley Airport Express. Those appear to be buses that transport athletic students. Let's clear something up. The buses that are on order, how long have they been on order?
Since last year.
So my understanding is there's a supply chain issue where the bus chassis are done from the manufacturer, but you're having a hard time getting someone to put the bus part on the wheels that run. So does everybody understand that? The buses have been ordered. You have the money budgeted. Laco just told you you're wonderful to the point where it's syrupy sick. So you have the money to buy the buses when they get here. So do you have the ability to go to Detroit or wherever they make them now and rough them people up? But you are budgeting money to make sure that the athletes get to their sites, apparently. Good. Let's go to page 6. The lawyer. You notice there's 2 categories here, public. Pay attention very carefully. I'm dropping crumbs. I already know, but I can't tell you. There's 2 sections. One says something about SPED. I don't like those numbers. But sometimes you have to have lawyers involved to get people, because they won't go to the training for the facilitated IEP meeting and how to do that. So we try to have lawyers take our money. The next one is the one that concerns me. This is the superintendent's office expenditure. Wonder what that's all about. I can't tell you. Watch that number. If you sue me, I might have to tell you. Go to page 12. Department of Justice. That's not a due process filing fee, is it? Good, because when you see one of those, there's usually 125,000 or 250,000 later on. Yeah, my left wrist is tore up from the floor up, and I don't know why. Okay, let's go to page 19. There are quite a few, and I don't want to call this one out particularly, but if you go through, there's a number of different names that we don't know that are receiving sped mileage payouts. We know that a parent has the opportunity to transport their own child, and please tell me that these arrangements are documented in an IEP that's signed and on file in the district office. Good. Page 22, Southwest Carpenters Training Fund. That appears to be half the payment of the annual fee to get our Carpenters Union CTE program going. So they've been paid, so I would imagine that's ready to go. Thank you, Dr. Sahakian. Okay, go to the last page here. If my math is right, this warrant register represents approximately $1.2 million, and it's for a period of how long? 2 weeks, 3 weeks? So if my math serves me right, this district has, what, 26 of these? So how many lawsuits can you handle before your reserve is ate up? Look at this number. Every 2 weeks, some every 2 week period. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. You have $1.2 million of cash flow going out of this district. Yeah, it's a lot of money every week, especially when you compare it to the annual budget. Okay, thank you for being thorough. I like to make sure the public understands where the money's at. I'm done. I take it legal has looked this over?
Yes.
The last meeting, the first read of this, I asked that the charters be encouraged to come forward and provide any input. Did you receive any input from any charter?
No, I've not received any input from any charter.
Okay, for the benefit of the public, the district did not just do this. This is the state auditor requesting that this is done. And if I'm wrong, somebody jump in. But when Judge Lancelot Link, or whatever his name was, down in San Diego County, made a ruling that this district pay back funds when somebody illegally absconded with $80 million worth of money. The state auditor produced a set of findings that fed the discovery in that case. So what the state auditor does is he doesn't just slap you on the hands, or he or she. He tells you that I want you to update your charter policy every year because I don't trust you yet. Would that be accurate? Yeah, it says state. Miss Pattison, Miss Pattison, I'll call on you when I need you. This is superintendent level stuff now. This is lawyer level stuff now. But this says that the state auditor wanted these things. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things. And one of them says, the second one says, to ensure compliance with state law, Acton, Agua, Dulce Unified should immediately establish a procedure to periodically review and update its charter school policy to include all of the requirements of state law, of which the 1200 series was changed last year significantly. That's why we're doing this. The state requires that we do it so we don't fall back in the pattern of collecting revenue by way of oversight. And there's no reason to do that anymore. I do want to have a discussion at some point about the number of students it actually takes to feed the payroll. I want to know the drop-dead number of students in this district it takes to self-fund. And I'm a little bit off track here, but if I save money from my paycheck and put it in a savings account and then suddenly start freaking out and overspend my paycheck and start dipping into my funding, that's called deficit spending. And pretty soon you don't have a bank account. You know, them jet skis and dirt bikes that we bought suddenly become very expensive when you're trying to put food in your kid's mouth. So tell me about deficit spending. Does the county trigger on deficit spending? Regardless of how much money in the bank, you're saying this year you do not have the number of kids it takes to self-fund. Would somebody please put that on the agenda? We have a simple report where you tell us, given the number of teachers and campuses and everything that we have, what is a minimum number of students we need to break even. I want to put that issue to bed. Okay. It says on here that to ensure compliance with state law, Acton Agua Dulce Unified should immediately track its actual costs for providing oversight and verify that its oversight fees do not exceed legal limits. How many times do I have to sit up here during every budget cycle and ask Mr. Mirza, and everybody doesn't get it? He keeps asking the same stupid questions. I'm verifying to him, how much revenue do you have off of charters? Zero, because if you have excess revenue off of charters, you are breaking state law. We'll be back in court. Understand that. Here's the one I want to talk about. To better ensure effective oversight of its charter schools' finances, not its charter schools, but its charter schools' finances, Acton Agua Dulce Unified should place a district representative as a non-voting member on each charter school's governing board. That means one of us can go sit on the I-Lead board, Agua Dulce. It says that the state is reporting we will not comply with that, will not implement. Why would we not want to implement that? Yeah, because as soon as I go over there and say, oh, don't do that, you can't do this, and the next thing you know, somebody does a bonehead move and somebody's suing this district, and even though somebody told you, and I keep saying this over and over, somebody stood up at my candidate forum and promised this community that there was no liability for charters, and we were dumped debt that we only know about back there. And there's going to be some people that join us have been talking that about the community pretty soon, and I'm going to show them numbers, and the chatter will stop. If the charters make a bonehead move and you can't, it's not legal for you to recover lawsuit money. But yet we're not doing this. So what I want to ask my board, do any of you want to entertain, while we have this opportunity, that we should change this where we want to put a member of this board on every charter board that we have? Does anybody want to entertain that?
No.
Tim?
No.
Well, I don't either, but let me tell you what. Let me do a local example. I'm not picking on anybody, but the only charters I want to know about are the ones that are servicing our community. And let me tell you about charter law when it happened in the 1990s. Charters were allowed to develop because there was an understanding that there were a number of students that were not being reached by traditional education systems. Might be SPED kids, might be GATE kids. By the way, people, wake up. SPED kids and gifted kids, they're on the same end of the scale. You give either one of them money, you're the bad guy. None of them get what they need. Sorry. But they developed charter schools, allowed charter schools to develop in hopes that they would reach some of these kids that weren't being reached, and that the advancements that they made in reaching those kids would permeate into the greater educational environment and be create for substantial increases in how we educate our children. It was not meant to build a career here as a superintendent and collect money while one of your former employee friends went off and built a bunch of charters and then resigned 5 minutes before I come in and run off with all the money. It was not designed for that. Back to this. I want to use our local charter. I don't want to pick on you. I know for a fact, when I was on my charter roll, I ran them out of here a dime a dozen. I got so many, they featured me in the LA Times over being a charter killer. But your charter stood up there. Dawn Iverson stood up there and took every question I had to offer, answered them. And those set of questions became the set of questions that ran a lot of them down the road, and you're still here. But don't take this personally. How many boards would I have to put a member on for her school? You'd think one, right? No, there's 4. Because now there's a organizational structure above it that has private interests and commercial interests and something else. So effectively, if I sat on that board, the decisions those boards could be made, could be overridden by somebody above that. And now all of a sudden, I get a letter from somebody. I was the only one that got this. By the way, when you are a board member, short of legal matters or student matters, your emails are discoverable by the public. Just ask for it. You want it? Call the superintendent's office. I'm doing a records request on the email that Mr. Pfalzgraf represented and held up at 10:16 p.m. on October 13th. It's right here. Somebody is telling me that the authorizer, who was the charter school founder, who stood up there and answered my questions, is suddenly disappearing, and the other person, who is I guess the brains behind the education, is now going to resign at the end of the week, and I'm being told that a change in leadership is not grounds for a material revision when I've got 3 and 4 layers of something happened before. I came onto this board because there was a set of charters that were dumped into this district's lap. There were orphans from a series of authorizations that were done by AADUSD, and when the political circumstances changed, now all of a sudden they're looking for a home, and this district was looking for money. So they all ended up here. One of those was Valiant, $700 and some thousand out the window. All of it illegal. I'm starting to see some same names from that group of people that walked in here and sold us a consulting contract, starting to pop up in this number. Start looking at history. It's repeating itself. I'll decide what is a change in organizational structure, with all due respect. I think we're starting to get really comfortable around here with people. Okay, I want to talk about that now. Substantial changes to the educational program, including a change in major vendors of educational software. It's my understanding that this charter, for example, was dependent on a system of curriculum that was developed in a methodology of instruction that was built for this system by the developer. It's good that we're all remaining silent. That's a smart move right now. You're in my world now. But all these people are gone suddenly, but I'm being reassured by somebody I don't even know, who is not part of our authorization system, who is not superseding the authority of this board and its authorizations, telling me that everything's going to be okay. I'll decide when everything's going to be okay. Open and closing of a charter or movement of schools' facilities, I'm not worried about that. Changes to admission requirements or preferences, I'm not worried about that. Substantial changes to a governance structure. When I've got the founders and the people that stood up there and made promises to me and kept those promises, when they start disappearing and we're discounting that as a lack of a governance change, my dictionary says something very different. Back to what I was talking about. So I want to be very clear. Anybody that's representing that they are going to sit on this board and they are also going to go sit on the charter is in error. Well, do my board members agree with me? Do you know of any board member right now that sits on a non-voting position on any charter school? No. Is it your desire to make that happen in the near future?
No.
All right. Everybody clear on that? Staff, note that. This page got a lot of notes. I want to talk about specific oversight. It says there's one person, the district, charter staffing oversight, page 22. The district maintains a staff position dedicated to charter school oversight, currently titled Director of Charter Schools. These are the promises that this district is making to the state auditor. The position's title may vary, but the district will maintain a staff position with primary responsibility of non-financial oversight. That's Shay. But then there's one, next one, the district's chief business official has primary responsibility for financial oversight of charter schools. Would you agree that's true? So, my first question is, I would have much rather heard about this news from my own staff. I don't like hearing about things on the street. Take that one to the bank. I know that this district has claimed to have paltry medical benefits, but I do think you can get a hearing test, at least annually. And I would suggest that when I talk, somebody get a hearing test, because I'm very serious about this. But I just happen to pop into charter school hearings every once in a while. I'll fire up my computer and go to their board meetings. I have the right to do that. But when I go to one, and there are 4 different board meetings, and I am hearing them report out that there are financial audits that are 6 months late at each and every one of these multi-layered things. But my chief financial officer, who I'm throwing curveballs 100 miles an hour at him constantly, he never falters. Our superintendent has the ability, you know, in the old days, well, you know, don't talk about it, I'll talk about it. No, I just ask him anything. We have that kind of relationship. We both know the answers. I'm doing this for y'all. But at the end of the day, he's not telling me that we're 6 months late on audits, is he? Do you know that this charter is 6 months late on audits 4 sites deep? I'm glad somebody could send me an anonymous email and make me aware of that. Let's go back to the other page.
What page I'm following?
Page 18. Okay, when it comes to renewal, the 1200 series, you know where that started? It started in Newhall, when Newhall was suing the school district when we were spending $450,000 a year. You want to talk about the past? Brianna brought up something. I used to write the nastiest critical, analytical editorials. One was called, I'll Show You Mine If You Show Me Yours, and it was talking about my salary and what I do and what my benefit package is, and what the superintendent's package was in this district at that time. And it boiled down to how much we were spending on legal fees for each student in this district. And it was approaching $500 per student. The ADA at that time was about $6,900. So you're spending about 5% of each student chasing charter schools. So here's the bottom line. What the 1200 series did was the people in Newhall that sued this district and ultimately won down in San Diego. They have somebody that was on the Newhall school board. Guess what? You see her name all over the sign. She's going to be your congressman. They went up there and lobbied the state education committee, the legislative education committee, to make these laws, the 1200 series. And one of those laws now is you have to present a different curriculum that's notably different than your authorizer in the boundaries for you to exist. Because if you don't, there's no reason for your charter. Remember what I told you about why charters started. I don't see any cows and cattle in here right now. I guess Christine didn't bring any from her school. But I think there's people, something different going on over there. I don't know. I don't go over there and dog you. I got people that watch what you're doing. That guy with the money. But I seem to be presenting a lot of facts tonight. And I'll tell you something else. When I asked you to come in here 8 weeks ago, I'm not a friendly person. I want somebody to stand up there and tell me what's going on, because there's been word on the street for a while. And when you don't show up to my birthday party, I start getting offended. Thank you for finally showing up. But I guess we figured out why they didn't show up, didn't we? But at the end of the day, when it comes to a measure of whether your school, your charter school, or your public school is different than the other ones around you, I have a very simple way of looking at things. Do you know what a cum file is? When you change school, you send your cumulative file on your student to another school. So I'm not the smartest person in the room, but at the same time, I'm smart enough to know that if we have a 10% increase in enrollment suddenly, where some people are up there criticizing me for enrollment drops, really, at that microphone, really? But we suddenly have a 10% increase. If I'm smart, I'm going to look at them CUME files, and I'm going to see what the origin is. If the origin is that charter in my own district, that's telling me that parents are starting to look at this and go, there's not much of a difference. I can play football at that one. That's my measure. I'll decide what questions are asked. I'm expecting a material revision out of a few of these charters very soon. But I do not expect to learn this information off the street. I'll tail this in now. When it comes to charters, get back in the old videos. I was sat up here and asked questions. I was accosted by my board members, fellow board members. People stood up there and flat out lied to me. They ended up stealing $80 million. You know what they got for it? House arrest with an ankle bracelet in Newport. How many of y'all live in Newport? I don't guess you're good at stealing money from children then, are you? But at the end of the day, do not get comfortable in your relationships with people. I'm going to ask very hard questions. Very hard questions. And I see changes in governance structure. I see changes in curriculum. I see changes in back of house action. If I'm wrong, come in and tell me I'm wrong. I asked you 8 weeks ago to come in here. You never showed up. Other than that, I love this policy because it lets me ask these kinds of questions. Good job. Shay?
Yes.
Good, there you are. I want to compliment you. You have a huge job, and there seems to be a lot of swinging parts in the background. I want you to know that you're not responsible for financial audits, but I am not all impressed with jumping on and watching somebody say that they're 6 months behind in an audit. That doesn't fall in your lap. That falls in this lap. But somebody's got to tell us that. Because when the money starts getting weird, I don't care what the reason was. I don't care if it was COVID. When I go to the teller, I want to get my money out. So I don't know what the reason is. Incompetence is the reason. That's the only reason I know. Am I clear? Mm-hmm. I'll expect somebody from ILEAD to be in here pretty soon. That submission thing that they read every time, there's no submissions. When I started, there were 2 or 3 a week. Those are charter submissions. I'm going to expect somebody to do a material revision, or at least come in here and stand up in front of me with a lawyer and tell me why I'm wrong. To support Callie's observations, the first charter that this school authorized, this district authorized, was a bunch of inmate population down in Los Angeles. Easy money, right? You got a prison over there, Christine?
Not now.
Okay, good. So, let me ask you this. Let's say that I'm a child that's been parented poorly, and I attack another student, and I am expelled. Who is responsible for the child's educational costs while they are expelled? And what's the other word? Yeah, you get expelled and you get suspended. So let's say I'm suspended for 2 years, and I end up in, I don't know, Yellen Academy because I hurt people or hurt myself. Who pays for that? Who pays for the child's educational cost?
If you're on an expulsion order for the academic calendar, and that's typically an academic calendar, not suspension, but an expulsion order, it's the cost of the school district.
So did you hear that? If I go out and attack somebody tomorrow and get put in prison, the district pays for my education while I am in prison. Understand that? Did everybody know that? Yeah. Next question. Can we stop someone from applying to come to our school?
No.
Can you, in considering an application, ask for any criminal files or anything that they have while they're not your student?
No.
Again, one more time, I want to know what the drop dead number is on how many kids this district has to have enrolled of its own to float. And once I know that number, I'm going to tell everybody to get busy because we don't got enough kids in this town.